I'd spent almost 4 years saving for that vacation. Most parents bought nicer speeders, upgraded their apartments, or spent their credits on luxury gadgets. Me? I put nearly everything aside for one dream. My daughter had just turned 6, and I wanted to give her something she'd remember for the rest of her life. The Interstellar Wonder Park wasn't just another theme park. It was considered the greatest entertainment destination in 3-star systems. Giant floating castles, gravity-defying rides, interactive alien worlds, and enough attractions to keep a family busy for weeks. Every extra shift I'd worked, every holiday I'd skipped, every luxury I'd passed on had gone into making that trip possible. My daughter had counted down the days for nearly a year. "Daddy, only 17 days left." Then 16. Then 10. Then 3. By the time we finally boarded the transport shuttle, she was practically vibrating with excitement. Sitting beside us was my girlfriend, an alien woman from a nearby colony world. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and she adored my daughter. Actually, adored was probably an understatement. The two of them spent half the flight discussing which rides they wanted to visit first while I sat there pretending not to be emotional. "Human fathers are strange," my girlfriend said with a smile. "How so?" "You work yourselves nearly to exhaustion just to see your children smile." I shrugged. "Seems normal to me." She laughed. "No. Trust me. Humans are different." When we finally arrived at the luxury resort attached to the park, everything looked even more incredible than the advertisements. Massive crystal towers stretched into the sky. Artificial waterfalls flowed between floating gardens. Children from dozens of species ran around laughing. My daughter stared at everything with wide eyes. "It's real," she whispered. That alone made every credit worth it. Unfortunately, my mother had joined the trip. Bringing her had seemed like a good idea at the time. I should have known better. My mother believed modern children were spoiled. According to her, kids had it too easy these days. She complained about toys. She complained about vacations. She complained about birthday parties. Honestly, I think she would have complained if someone handed her a winning lottery ticket. The trouble started when we checked into our suite. The resort had provided multiple sleeping areas, but there was some discussion over who would get which room. I was helping carry luggage when I heard my daughter's small voice. "Grandma, where do I sleep?" I turned around just in time to hear my mother's answer. "Oh, you'll be fine on the floor, sweetheart." The room immediately went silent. My daughter blinked. "The floor?" My mother nodded casually. "You're young. You won't care." I felt something tighten inside my chest. My daughter looked down at her shoes. She wasn't crying. She wasn't complaining. That somehow made it worse. She simply accepted it. "Okay." My girlfriend's eyes widened. Even she looked shocked. "A child sleeps on the floor?" she asked carefully. My mother waved dismissively. "She's 6. She won't remember." I looked at my daughter. The excitement she'd carried all day had faded slightly. Not completely. Just enough for a father to notice. I could have argued. I could have started a fight. I could have demanded changes right there. Instead, I smiled. "Don't worry," I said calmly. "We'll figure everything out." My mother seemed pleased with herself. My daughter forced a little smile. My girlfriend watched me closely. She knew me well enough to recognize that expression. That wasn't forgiveness. That wasn't acceptance. That was patience. Later that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I sat alone in the living area of our suite. The resort's lights sparkled through the giant window overlooking the park. I opened my travel account. A few taps later, I found the reservation package. Then I located a very specific name. My mother's. The smile on my face grew slightly. Without making a sound, without waking anyone, and without sending a single message, I quietly canceled something my mother cared about far more than a hotel bed. The next morning, my daughter was awake before sunrise. I opened my eyes to find her already dressed, bouncing excitedly near the window while watching the enormous theme park come to life below. "Daddy! The floating roller coaster is moving!" I laughed. "It tends to do that." She giggled and immediately started talking about all the attractions she wanted to visit. Seeing her excitement return made me feel much better about the previous night. My mother, meanwhile, seemed unusually cheerful. That made sense. The VIP package I'd purchased wasn't cheap. Private entrances, express ride access, exclusive dining, priority transportation, special events unavailable to regular visitors. My mother had spent half the previous evening bragging about how nice it would be to skip every line in the park. I had simply smiled and nodded. Soon we arrived at the main entrance. Thousands of visitors crowded the massive plaza. Families from dozens of worlds waited excitedly beneath giant holographic displays. My daughter grabbed one of my hands while my girlfriend held the other. For a brief moment, it felt like the perfect family vacation. Then we reached the VIP checkpoint. My daughter's pass scanned successfully. Mine worked. My girlfriend's worked. A pleasant chime sounded for each one. Then my mother stepped forward confidently. She practically looked proud of herself. The scanner flashed red. A loud error tone followed. The attendant smiled politely. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This pass does not include VIP access." My mother frowned. "That can't be right." The attendant checked again. Same result. "No VIP privileges are attached to this reservation." My mother looked at me. "There must be some mistake." I glanced at the screen. "Huh. That's strange." The attendant offered a sympathetic smile. "You may still enter through standard admission." My mother's jaw nearly dropped. "Standard admission?" The words sounded physically painful for her to say. Meanwhile, a line containing hundreds of people stretched across the plaza. My daughter innocently pointed toward it. "Grandma, I think that's your line." My girlfriend immediately looked away to hide a laugh. I nearly lost control myself. Mother continued arguing for several minutes, but every employee reached the same conclusion. The reservation was correct. Nothing was broken. Nothing was missing. Everything was functioning exactly as purchased. Eventually she had no choice but to join the standard queue. We waved goodbye and entered through the VIP gate. My daughter looked amazed. "We just walk in." "That's the idea." A few minutes later we were already riding our first attraction, while my mother was still standing outside somewhere in the crowd. The day only became funnier from there. Every ride had a priority entrance. Every restaurant had reserved seating. Every major attraction offered express boarding. Meanwhile, my mother's messages began arriving. "Something is wrong. Can you talk to someone? The staff won't help." I replied with complete honesty. "I'm sure they're doing their best." A few minutes later another message appeared. "I've been standing in line for 40 minutes. I hope things improve." My girlfriend saw the message and burst out laughing. "Humans are terrifying." I raised an eyebrow. "Why? You didn't yell." "No. You didn't argue." "No. You simply rearranged reality until the problem solved itself." I couldn't help smiling. "Parenting teaches creativity." She slipped her arm through mine. "I think that's one of the reasons I love humans." The warmth in her voice caught me slightly off guard. Before I could answer, my daughter tugged on my sleeve. "Daddy! Another ride!" We spent the next several hours enjoying attraction after attraction. No waiting. No stress. Just fun. Meanwhile, my mother's complaints became increasingly desperate. One line lasted nearly 90 minutes. Another exceeded 2 hours. At one point she accidentally joined the wrong queue and had to start over. My girlfriend laughed so hard she nearly cried when she heard that story. By lunchtime, we'd already experienced more attractions than most guests managed in an entire day. My mother finally caught up with us outside one of the park's biggest rides. She looked exhausted. Her hair was messy. Her expression was furious. And for the first time all day, she wasn't talking about mistakes or technical problems. because she had finally figured out something important. Her missing VIP privileges weren't missing at all. Someone had removed them. And deep down, she already knew exactly who that someone was. My mother spent the next few hours trying to solve a problem that technically didn't exist. That was probably the funniest part. Every customer service desk gave her the same answer. Every employee repeated the same information. Every scanner showed the same result. Her pass was functioning perfectly. It simply wasn't a VIP pass anymore. Meanwhile, my daughter was having the greatest day of her young life. She flew through a simulated asteroid field. She drove miniature starships. She met friendly robotic characters that danced and sang with children. At one attraction, she got selected to help save a fictional galaxy from space pirates. For the rest of the afternoon, she proudly referred to herself as Captain. I wasn't about to correct her. My girlfriend loved every second of it. Watching those two together felt surprisingly natural. At one point they wore matching souvenir hats shaped like alien creatures. When I pointed out how ridiculous they looked, they both crossed their arms and informed me I had no fashion sense. Apparently I was outnumbered. A few hours later, we reached one of the park's most popular attractions. The waiting time for standard guests was nearly 3 hours. VIP guests entered immediately. As we walked toward the express entrance, my daughter spotted my mother standing in the regular queue. The line stretched so far that it disappeared around a building. My mother looked miserable. Sweaty. Tired. Frustrated. And very, very annoyed. My daughter waved enthusiastically. "Hi, Grandma!" My mother forced a smile. "Hello, sweetheart." Then she watched us disappear through the VIP entrance less than 30 seconds later. I could practically feel her glare on the back of my head. My girlfriend laughed so hard she nearly stumbled. "You're enjoying this far too much. I haven't done anything." She gave me a look. "That's technically true, which somehow makes it worse." Later that afternoon, we attended an exclusive dining experience available only to VIP guests. The restaurant floated hundreds of feet above the park. Large windows offered breathtaking views of the surrounding attractions. My daughter sat near the glass, completely mesmerized. "This is the best day ever." Those 6 words made every sacrificed credit worthwhile. Across the restaurant, several alien tourists noticed our family. One of them struck up a conversation. After hearing about the trip, they complimented me for making my daughter's happiness a priority. The discussion quickly turned toward parenting. Different species had different customs. Some cultures focused on discipline. Others emphasized independence. Humans, however, had earned a reputation throughout several systems. One alien described humanity in a way that made me laugh. "You people become irrational whenever children are involved." I shrugged. "Probably true." My girlfriend smiled. "No. Definitely true." The alien nodded. "I once saw a human father negotiate with armed criminals. He wasn't afraid until they threatened his daughter." "Then what happened?" I asked. The alien shivered slightly. "The criminals apologized." The entire table burst into laughter. My girlfriend leaned closer to me. "You know, when we first met, I thought human stories about family loyalty were exaggerated. And now?" She looked toward my daughter, who was happily drawing pictures on a digital menu. "Now I think the stories underestimated you." For a moment, the noise of the restaurant seemed to disappear. There was something in her eyes that made my heart skip. Then my daughter interrupted the moment by proudly showing us a drawing of a giant purple dinosaur wearing sunglasses. The romantic atmosphere vanished instantly. My girlfriend laughed. I laughed. My daughter laughed despite having no idea why. The rest of the afternoon continued in much the same way. We enjoyed ride after ride, show after show, experience after experience. Meanwhile, my mother somehow managed to miss nearly every major VIP attraction available. The exclusive character event, the private performance, the fast-track transportation system, the premium viewing areas. All gone. By sunset, she looked like she'd spent a week crossing a desert. The woman who had confidently declared that a 6-year-old could sleep on the floor was suddenly much quieter. As golden light filled the park and the evening fireworks prepared to begin, I noticed her walking toward us. Gone was the anger. Gone was the confidence. For the first time all day, she looked thoughtful. And judging by the expression on her face, she was finally ready to have a very different conversation. The fireworks hadn't started yet when my mother finally approached me. For the first time during the entire trip, she wasn't complaining. She wasn't demanding anything. She wasn't blaming customer service. She simply stood beside me and looked out over the park. The silence lasted almost a minute. Finally, she sighed. "You canceled my VIP pass." It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Yes." Another long silence followed. My daughter was a short distance away with my girlfriend, both of them trying to decide which glowing souvenir wand looked the most ridiculous. Judging by the amount of laughing involved, they were taking the decision very seriously. My mother watched them for a moment. Then she looked back at me. "Because of what happened at the hotel." Again I nodded. "You made my daughter sleep on the floor." Her shoulders dropped slightly. "I didn't think it was a big deal." I glanced toward my daughter. "That's the problem." "What do you mean?" "You didn't think about how it would make her feel." My mother looked down. For once, she didn't have an immediate response. I continued calmly. "I spent years saving for this trip. Not for myself. For her." I pointed toward my daughter. She was excited for months. Then the first thing she learned after arriving was that she was apparently the least important person in the room. My mother winced. The words hit harder than I expected. "She didn't complain," my mother said quietly. "No. She didn't argue. No. She just accepted it." I nodded. "Exactly." For a few seconds either of us spoke. Then my mother surprised me. "I was wrong." The words seemed difficult for her to say. Honestly, I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard them. She slowly walked over to my daughter. My girlfriend noticed immediately and gave them space. My daughter looked up. "Hi, Grandma." My mother's expression softened. "Sweetheart, I owe you an apology." My daughter blinked. "For what?" My mother crouched down. "For hurting your feelings." The little girl thought about it. Children have a way of processing things that adults often forget. They don't complicate everything. They simply look at the truth. "You mean the sleeping on the floor thing?" My mother nodded. "Yes. You hurt my feelings a little." The honesty nearly made me laugh. My mother looked devastated. "I'm sorry." My daughter smiled. "It's okay." Just like that. No drama. No revenge. No bitterness. A 6-year-old handled the situation with more grace than most adults. My mother hugged her tightly. When she stood up again, there was actual guilt in her eyes. The kind that comes from learning a lesson rather than merely suffering a consequence. I checked my travel account. A few taps later, I restored part of her VIP access for the evening events. Not everything. I wasn't a miracle worker. But enough. A notification appeared on her device. She looked at it, and then at me. "Thank you? Don't waste it." A small smile appeared on her face. That evening, the family sat together for dinner overlooking the park. The tension was gone. The arguments were gone. Even my mother seemed happier. Especially after realizing she no longer had to wait in any more 2-hour lines. The fireworks began shortly after sunset. Brilliant colors exploded across the sky. Music echoed through the park. Thousands of visitors looked upward in amazement. My daughter sat on my shoulders, laughing every time another burst of light appeared overhead. Beside me, my girlfriend slipped her hand into mine. "You know," she said softly, "today taught me something." "Oh?" She smiled. "Human strength isn't what I thought it was." I looked at her curiously. "What did you think it was?" "Wars. Exploration. Survival. And now?" She squeezed my hand. "I think it's love." I stared at the fireworks for a moment. Then at my daughter. Then at the woman beside me. Maybe she was right. Humans crossed galaxies. Built civilizations. Solved impossible problems. But none of that was the real reason we kept moving forward. The truth was much simpler. We protected the people we loved. My mother learned that children remember far more than adults think. My daughter learned that her father would always stand up for her. And my girlfriend learned why humanity had earned its reputation across the stars. Not because humans were the strongest species. Not because we were the smartest. But because when someone we love gets pushed aside, ignored, or hurt, we don't simply stand there and watch. Sometimes we fight. Sometimes we sacrifice. And sometimes, if we're feeling particularly patient, we quietly cancel a VIP pass and let the lesson teach itself. As the final fireworks illuminated the night sky, my daughter's laughter echoed across the park. And honestly, that sound was worth more than every credit I had ever spent.